A little backstory: I was born into a situation that was already laid out for me. As a child, I was completely unaware of the history that preceded me. Apparently, my mom had a rough upbringing, which led to the birth of her dark side. I have three siblings, two brothers, Nick and Norman, and a sister named Kelly. Nick was more of the standout and adventurous type. Kelly was the opinionated risk taker, and Norman, well, he struggles with something that nobody understands. Don't get me wrong, I loved my family, but they were hard to deal with sometimes. But nowadays, I simply write about it. It's therapeutic and helps me navigate through all the drama. I like to refer to myself as a truth seeker, and because of that, I am an outcast in my family. I can't say that it doesn't bother me at all, but I guess that is the weight of their whispers. Journal entry 1: The cracks in the foundation. My earliest memory was my mother's voice, sharp as shattered glass, slicing through the walls of our cramped apartment. Kelly's been skimming cash from my purse again. My mother would sigh to Mrs. Thompson next door, loud enough for me to hear. And Norman, well, you know how he gets. Every day it's something new with him. By age 12, I learned to translate my mother's gossip as we, her kids, were the problem. Nick, the second eldest, who didn't live with us, was money hungry and wore flashy clothes, always chasing the next opportunity. At 16, he began seeing me as a problem, saying things like, "You're as useless as Norm." Norman, 2 years younger, hid in the linen closet during storms, humming off-key lullabies to quiet the voices only he could hear. My mother called it attention-seeking. I called it survival. Kelly, the eldest, had fled at 19 after a DUI left her with a record. She sent postcards from motels, "Tell Mom I'm fine," but never visited. Evidently, she had a dark side that kept her running. As time moved forward, I have memories of my mother being in denial about Norman. I recall a time where I walked in the living room as she sat in a chair smoking a cigarette. Once she saw me, she said, "Norman called. He's in the hospital again. Third time this year. You'd think he'd stop pretending." But I replied, "He's not pretending, Mom." She rolled her eyes as I walked over to the sofa and flopped down. Mom turned to look at me, then continued saying, "And Nick called, needs a loan. Again. That boy's got holes in his pockets." I shifted in my seat and replied, "Yeah, well, I need some new shoes." She smirked before saying, "I said Nick needs a loan." Once I noticed her dark side appeared, I shifted my gaze. I sighed and thought to myself, wow, she just paid off Nick's loan last month, $300 for a sure thing crypto scheme. But when I glanced back at her and saw the satisfying grin on her face, I knew for a fact that my request was denied. Journal entry 2: The breaking point. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and despair. Norman lay curled in bed, his wrists bandaged, his eyes vacant. "She told the neighbors I did this for attention," he whispered. "But the voices, they said I was a burden, like Mom says." Once Norman was able to return home, nothing changed. The house remained full of cigarette smoke and stayed messy. I did what I could around the house, but Norman's illness made it nearly impossible to keep the place clean. But there were times he was of sound mind. Like the time I was sitting at the kitchen table after cleaning the house from top to bottom. He walked in and sat across from me. Norman watched me trace the scar on my palm, a childhood bite from him during a meltdown. "I'm sorry," he said solemnly. "It's the voices," he continued. "No worries, it healed," I smirked. It was a brief moment of kinship. But with each passing day, Norman became more unrecognizable, and I watched helplessly as his dark side overpowered him. Meanwhile, Kelly was nowhere to be found, and Nick was waiting and pacing, trying to find new ways to line his pockets. He was such a shady character. "You've got savings, right?" he asked, shifting his gaze to Mom. "I found a guy who flips houses. We could double your money in 6 months, he continued. "I'm done, Nick," she said, exasperated. And just like that, they started arguing. I mean, their voice grew so loud that it could wake the dead. And in the middle of the mayhem, somehow they shifted the focus from yelling at each other to yelling at me. And as Nick's voice grew louder, it was clear that his dark side was front and center. "You need to clean this house. You're the problem," he shouted. "It's your fault why she can't get her life together," he continued. But I noticed that my mother stopped yelling. She took a few steps back behind Nick and had an arrogant smile on her face. It was like she moved the target from her to me. "You and Norman are so freaking lazy," Nick shouted aggressively. The rage in his voice reached a point to where eventually the neighbors had called the police.